Eala, there's no way I could ever be that pragmatic, that self-aware. I'm a bigger fan after having spoken to her. Huge fan. Those words came from Roddick, former world number one. Hello, everyone. You've been a gift at a tennis, and you're pulling all of those fans with you. 2003 U.S. Open champion, a man who has spent 43 years on this planet and decades inside professional tennis. And he said them about a 20-year-old from Manila who just made him rethink what maturity looks like under pressure. Alexandra Eala walked into Roddick's podcast fresh off a 3-hour, 20-minute war in Miami. She walked out having stunned a Grand Slam champion into public confession. The Served with Roddick episode dropped March 25th, recorded during the Miami Open while Eala was still shaking off a brutal round of 16 loss to Carolina Muchova. As you know, all Filipinos are following every tournament that she's playing and now participation in Linz, Austria. So she entered that conversation ranked 46th in the world, down from a career-high 29 she hit just 9 days earlier. This week, she makes her 2026 clay court debut at the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open. Tough draw. She's in Linz already, and we are celebrating our 35th anniversary this year. Former Grand Slam champions potentially waiting in the early rounds. The surface transition everyone has been watching for. But what happened inside that 30-minute interview changed the way one of the sport's sharpest minds talks about her future. The WTA Tour has a problem. Not a scandal, not a crisis. A gap. The gap between hype and substance. Between young talent that generates headlines and young talent that can carry the weight of those headlines without cracking. Between players who say the right things and players who understand why those things matter. Roddick sees it. He has watched rising stars buckle under the popularity storm. He has seen national trailblazers collapse under the responsibility of representing millions. He has interviewed enough players to know the difference between media training and actual self-awareness. And then he sat down with Alexandra Eala. What followed was not an interview where a legend hyped a prospect. It was an interview where a legend admitted out loud on his own platform that the 20-year-old sitting across from him possessed something he never had at her age. Roddick opened his Poston Reaction segment with co-host Yen Veritime by calling the conversation a lesson in self-awareness. Not impressive for her age, not promising, a lesson for him. I'm sitting here at 43 years old, having been in this tennis game for a long time, he said, and I'm going, there's no way I could ever be that pragmatic, that self-aware, especially in the eye of the popularity storm and the responsibility that comes with that position. The popularity storm, the responsibility. Roddick was not talking about handling press conferences or managing social media. He was talking about carrying the dreams of an entire nation while cameras track every stumble. Eala is the first player from the Philippines to break the WTA Top 100, the first to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal, the first to crack the top 30. Every match she plays, 115 million Filipinos are watching. Every loss is dissected. Every win becomes a national holiday. And according to the man who once carried American tennis on his shoulders, she navigates that pressure with a composure he could not match in his prime. The evidence was right there in Miami. March 19th, a 3-hour, 20-minute marathon against Laura Segund. Down a set, clawed back in. A second set tie break, closed in 3. The longest match of her professional career, and she walked off court looking like she had just finished a practice session. 2 days later, straight sets over Magda Linette 63-76. Efficient, clinical, no letdown after the emotional drain. Then Muchova delivered reality in the round of 16, 6-0, 6-2. The kind of beating that exposes every weakness, the kind of scoreline that makes you question whether you belong at this level. Eala took that loss on March 23rd. By March 25th, she was sitting across from Roddick discussing the mental side of the sport with the kind of clarity that made a former world number one stop and recalibrate. Fans who have followed her rise saw something the mainstream missed. This was not luck. This was not a hot streak. This was a player who understood the assignment from day one. Roddick confirmed what you already knew. He called her the trailblazer from her country and then delivered the line that made tennis media explode. She is what a gift she is to us. Not to the Philippines, to us, to the sport, to everyone watching. I was fascinated before I talked to her, Roddick continued. I'm a bigger fan after having spoken to her. Huge fan. Can't say enough about what she's doing for the sport. Andy Roddick does not hand out compliments like participation trophies. He won 32 ATP titles. He spent 13 weeks at world number 1. He reached 4 Grand Slam finals and won one. He retired in 2012 and has spent the last decade building one of the most respected voices in tennis media precisely because he refuses to hype players he does not believe in. When Roddick calls someone a gift to this sport, it is not promotional language. It is not podcast filler. It is a former champion staking his reputation on a player's character. And he did not just say it. He explained why. The self-awareness, the pragmatism, the ability to exist in the eye of the popularity storm without losing perspective. These are not skills you learn in media training. These are not traits you fake in a 30-minute podcast. Roddick has interviewed enough players to know the difference. He sat across from Eala and saw something the WTA desperately needs more of. A young star who understands that talent without maturity is just noise. This is not just about one player's trajectory. This is about what the tour needs to sustain momentum in Asia, where tennis viewership is exploding, but local stars capable of anchoring that growth remain rare. Eala is about to test whether her hardcore success translates to clay. Linz this week, Stuttgart in 2 weeks, Madrid after that, Roland Garros waiting at the end of May. Tournament directors across Europe are paying attention. Not because she is a feel-good story, because she sells tickets, because she brings Filipino fans to stadiums and cities that have never seen that kind of diaspora energy, because she gives the WTA something it has struggled to generate organically. A young, marketable, emotionally intelligent star who can handle the spotlight without crumbling under it. Roddick's endorsement accelerates that timeline. When a former Grand Slam champion publicly declares you a gift to this sport, sponsors start calling. Wildards become easier to secure. The narrative shifts from promising prospect to future face of the tour. The stakes just expanded beyond Manila, beyond Asia. Eala is now carrying expectations on a global scale, and according to the man who just interviewed her, she is the rare 20-year-old built to handle it. The mooch of a loss in Miami was not close. 6-0, 6-2 is the kind of scoreline that humbles even the most confident players. Eala faced the 13th seed and got dismantled in under an hour. No excuses, no public statements blaming fatigue or the schedule. She absorbed the loss, packed her bags, and moved on to the next chapter. That is the pragmatism Roddick was talking about. Not the ability to avoid losses, the ability to process them without losing the thread of the larger story, the 3-hour 20-minute war, the Roddick confession, the gift to the sport. Andy Roddick did not just praise Alex. He admitted she possesses something he never had. Self-awareness in the eye of the storm. Pragmatism under the weight of national expectation. The kind of maturity that cannot be taught, only recognized by those who know what it looks like. The WTA Tour needed exactly this player at exactly this moment. And she just walked into Roddick's studio and proved she is already here. The clay swing begins this week in Linz. The question is not whether Eala can handle the pressure. Roddick already answered that. The question is whether the rest of the tour is ready for what comes next. Can Alexandra Eala translate her hardcourt dominance to clay, or will the surface expose the gaps Machiva found in Miami? This channel covers every step of the stories the mainstream is still trying to figure out. Subscribe now. You are watching a player Roddick called a gift to the sport. And every match from here forward is part of that story. The clay debut happens this week.